Look at this. Now look at this. And now this. I redesigned elves for my world building project. Specifically, I redesigned black elves. This is part of the graphic novel I'm working on. It has an African setting. I want the characters to connect to African culture, so I'm making them a version of black elves. Although technically speaking, they're not exactly elves, and I won't be calling them that in the story. I just think this will be a great starting point for my character designs. When you think of elves, 90% of the time you are thinking of humans with pointy ears, right? Also, you're probably thinking of these elves, not these elves. They might be magical, but that is rarely reflected in their physical form. I want to try going in a different direction a bit because as I see it, elves are supposed to be an entirely separate species from humans, right? For my first design, I did a deep dive into classic elves and their origins. Elves started off as these mystical beings in Norse mythology. They transitioned into literary figures over the years, as you can see in the works of Shakespeare, Lord Byron, and John Keats. Then Tolkien happened. He redefined how we portray elves today with his novels like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, where elves are these noble, immortal beings that are skilled in arts and warfare. I originally tried just darkening the skin of your classic elves. I liked the result, but I felt like the character lacked originality. I'm pretty sure this is what made me realize that I don't want to have classic elves in my world. My next design was inspired by elves from modern fiction in general. These elves have also clearly borrowed a lot from Tolkien. Their designs can be traced back to tropes that were made popular by games like Dungeons & Dragons, the Elder Scrolls series, World of Warcraft, and more. Today, modern portrayals of elves vary widely. Here are some of my favorites from my research. The elves of Sir Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, the elves of MTG's Lorwyn setting, the elves of the Divinity Original Sin games, the Night Elves in Warcraft 3, Guild 2 Take on Elves, elves in Dwarf Fortress, and the elves in God of War 4. I came to the conclusion that these aesthetic choices often reflect the values and ideals of the people creating them. Maybe this can start to explain why Black or Asian or any other POC elves are so rare. It was really hard to find good examples of black elves to use as references for my world. I guess that's just because writers and world builders base their creations on what is familiar to them. At the end of the day, it's the long ears that tie them all together, right? So based on that, this is what I came up with. I tried to reimagine the fictional elves that inspired me, but based those designs on African roots. So I incorporated the skin color from the first design and also experimented with black hairstyles in this design. However, I was still not completely happy with it and I struggled to see my vision represented. So I started working on the next version. Rather than overly large transformations, I think more meaningful changes that are not too drastic can go a long way. Of course, everything is rooted in the learnings from previous versions. I decided to explore upgrading some select human physical traits to lean into that elven grace. I did a bit of research and came up with a few of these traits. The idea here is to correct them in the character design and see what we can come up with. Let's talk about these design flaws, starting with our spines. They are curved and unsound, which is why from the age of 30 and up, almost every adult has to deal with lower back pain. To fix this, I'll just give my characters a straighter spine. Next, our teeth are too crowded because our jaws are wide and short, so we get all sorts of issues with our wisdom teeth. This is also a simple fix. I'll just make the jaw a bit longer to accommodate all the teeth. I also looked at some vestigial features that every human has, such as the tailbone, the third eyelid, and our ear wiggling muscles. I made them functional, so my guys have tails, a functional third eyelid like most animals do, and they can wiggle their long ears. To fix our terrible eyesight, I based my eye design on the octopus. Then I had a look at our feet. We have too many bones in them, which makes us prone to issues like ankle sprains, Achilles tendonitis, shin splints, and more. I based the foot design on the ostrich, which is built for walking upright and running, but not climbing trees. Good thing these are the same traits I want my characters to have. Finally, I looked at our pelvises. They're just too narrow, which makes childbirth hard. Plus, human babies have massive heads. So instead of making the females of the species very thick, I chose to make their heads longer and narrower. With this design, I'll also try to incorporate everything I liked from my previous designs as well, which brings us to this point. Here's a simple scene of a family of my characters interacting with each other. We enter their dwelling, which is a sculpted cave with a desert backdrop. Notice the symbols around the entrance. The daughter sits by her mother who is braiding her hair. The son is meticulously chiseling symbols into his bone weapon. I'll talk about why they do this in a future video. I'll also explain what these vials hanging by the door here are. And when we zoom in here, we can see the father approaching in the distance. I tried exploring some subtle variations in hairstyle and attire as well. I'm really happy with it, but I'm sure I'll continue tweaking things as I go. So what do you think so far? I'm excited to show you guys more of what I envision for their cultures, their religion, architecture, and customs in future videos. I would also love to talk about the language I created for my world, its magic system, and maybe share a little bit about the story I'm working on. Yeah, that's all for the elf redesign for now. I hope this was as much fun for you as it was for me. Maybe you guys could tell me what feature in the redesign do you like most. I've started this series to document my journey in creating my graphic novel. I think it's also a great way to keep myself accountable, you know. I really want to see this project through, and I hope you'll join me on this journey by subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.